everything that I made here was the free version of Soundtrap 2. It wasn't the paid one where you get exclusive samples that make it sound good. This was all like the free piano and all that stuff, and the drums were not. But the drums that I have were separate from Soundtrap, and they're all in a pack in the description down below for you to just download for free, the starting place for all these drums. I'm not trying to get your email or your credit card with drums. I'm not trying to get all that. I'm here. I'm just giving you the samples. It's a Google Drive link. Just download audio files to plop them straight into Soundtrap. It's a great one to have. I like the other sample pack that I had down there as well. Check all those out. All for free. Nothing. No credit cards or nothing. But this lo-fi breakdown, any DAW, comes down to these 4 steps for me. It's harmony, the warping, the soft low end width, and the drums. And then I'm going to get into the specifics about the song and everything at the end. So, first one, let's get into it. Harmony. The harmony for this, the chords that you have and the melodies that you make. Here's how I do it. They're extended, kind of jazzy chords, and it's really easy to make if you just do it right. So I pulled up right here in Soundtrap the piano roll, and I have just a plain piano playing these notes. This is the final product of what I had, and basically what I did was I went in and I didn't have this note up there, didn't have this note right there, I didn't have that note, all these other kind of little crazy notes that are going all over the place. I just had these, and these are chords basically. So what I did was started how to make extended chords without having to know music theory basically, is went into every white note that you could see. You can see some of these are white notes like there, and some of them are dark notes right there. If you stick to only the white notes for now, they'll be all in the same key, and then you could have your method for making the chords, and then you could shift the keys up and down. But once you have the framework of the in-key chords that you have, you could go to any key that you want. But just do the white notes basically. So I started right there, and then what you do is you find a white note, and then you skip a white space and go to the next white space. So then there's another white space, skip a white space, go to the next white space, there you go. And then I skip a white space, go to the next white space, and there you go. And once I have that, I'm making a chord. So that once you're in a key, if you have a note and then you skip the note and then you go to the next note, you're basically starting making chords. So that chord right there, and then I dropped one all the way down here. That's a D2, and I just had the same note up here, so it's this octave. I had a lower note, and it sounds basically like this. So I'm just messing around with the chords right there. It takes a creative time to do it. It takes time to do this stuff, so just mess around with the different chords, but have these extended chords. Go about 3 or 4. Do a space, skip one, go. Do a space, skip one, go. And then you could have a big extended chord that sounds pretty jazzy in here. So that's my method of doing that. Once I have that, you could shift the key by just going over here. This is the pattern that I have. This is the track, and this is the pattern. Just go into edit and press change pitch, and then you could shift the whole thing up and down. But once I had that, then I started adding those notes in for a melody onto the piano roll that I had basically. So I go back into edit notes, press undo for all of those little notes that I had. And what I did, I stuck with the same key that I had before, but I just had one note at a small rhythm right before. So with all these little notes, like this one right here, this one right here, this one down here, this one down here, just like one little boom, bum, back into the notes that I already had. And then you end up creating this melody. So I was just messing around with this stuff, and it sounded pretty nice like that. Pretty much. Sounds pretty good, right? So now that I had that, that was basically the harmony of it. And having those extended chords is really the best part about doing this. Basically, I'm on a default. It's called Pianizer, the instrument right here. Again, that's free in Soundtrap. I went into here, and what made it sound lo-fi. So here's the thing. Soundtrap has a lo-fi instrument, but you got to pay for it. It's in the paid version. And basically all they're doing is putting the warping on, which is the second part about this. Warping is taking the pitch and just kind of messing with it a little bit, and it totally gives the lo-fi sound its sound. So it's this vibrato plugin, and then you turn the depth pretty low and the rate pretty slow as well. You can mess around with those settings too, but that is usually the sweet spot of where warping works. So without it, it sounds like this. On. It's so subtle in there, but it really adds that kind of character lo-fi stuff. It's pretty subtle. That's all the moves that we're doing, though, subtle stuff. So adding that vibrato totally helps with that. The reason why that works for lo-fi, because lo-fi is like nostalgic music, and records, like back in the day when they used to record on tape, used to get warped like that, and then their pitch would change. It would be really subtle, but that's what gives it that sound. And that's what all of these lo-fi things are trying to emulate. It's the nostalgia of old records changing and warping over time, and we're just adding that back in with something Soundtrap doesn't tell you. It's just this vibrato plugin, but it's the warping and sound. Fancy plugins like this emulate that in a complex way, but they all have the warping feature when you're in big DAWs, right? So, professional producers who make this stuff are using things like the RC20 and the Isotope Vinyl, and they all have that warping feature that is meant to set it back in time, basically, and just gives this little bit of a character. It's pretty nice. After the warping comes, once I have this pattern, and then I change it a bit. So it's soft width is what I call it. If you go on to lo-fi right now on YouTube, and it's that live video that's been playing that has 30,000 people all the time watching this lo-fi girl do her homework, those beautiful sounds in there, I've noticed every time I went to it, I didn't even know this about lo-fi, but just listening to that in preparation for this video, they all have low frequency information really wide and like compressed and in your face. It's cool as hell. So here's what I did with that. How do you create this low, it's hard to even hear it, but how do you create the low width in this stuff? So what I did, I took this piano basically, and this is a tip I give in the 10 tips video about just mixing this stuff in general. It's creating width by duplicating tracks. I went to this track, I duplicated it 3 times into these top 3 pianizer tracks, deleted my first one, deleted the original where every note is on there, and I just took notes from each one of them and copied one line of it. If I play these top 3 tracks, it sounds like the first one, and that's on purpose just because it's exactly the same. I just duplicated it and then took off notes. So they're all the same track, basically, but they're split up into 3. You'll notice it sounds a little bit different though, and it's because I went into some of them, like the low one right here, and I panned it a little bit to the right with this pan knob right here. So it's making that a little bit to the side, right? And then I'm basically having the same piano. It sounds like what's the same piano, a little bit more to the side, and then I have the last one all the way up here, panned to the other side. So what you get is this separation, and the instrument lives in this space, right? It doesn't live in this space anymore, where everything's up the middle, every note is up the middle. You're getting all of that instrument. It sounds like one instrument, but just really wide. Generally, there's with plugins, there's things just to make things wide that you could put as a effect on here, but Soundtrap doesn't have that, so we just have to duplicate the track and pan them a bit. But it sounds like this, and it gets that soft width to this stuff. Pretty good. Sounds good to me. As a quick note, for the lowest one on here, this third bottom one, which are my lowest notes, I took off the vibrato plugin. So I didn't like, oh wait, I guess I didn't do it on that one. I took off the vibrato on the lowest one because I didn't like the lowest information being warped like that. Usually, there we go. Yeah, low information. Never warp your bass or low information when it's just this kind of bassy sound. It sounds terrible all the time. Having your low end as in tune and straight as possible is the best thing that I've ever found for mixing, man. I'm telling you, like, professional producers, you'd be amazed at how tight their low end stuff is. So it's something that you can't really touch like that. The high stuff you warp. You really mess with that to give it the vibe, but you don't do it to the low stuff. So I took it off the low piano. I took the warping, the pitch, warping off the low piano. And like, again, it sounds like this. That's pretty good. So once I did that, I am going to go into the drums right now, just really fleshing out this main section. And again, I have all of these drums, the starting place for all the drums, down below in a sample pack. You'll see lo-fi sample pack again. Don't need a credit card, don't need you to pay, don't need your email, don't need anything like that. I'm not trying to get anything out of you. Just download these. They're all for free down here. At least the starting places. I'll start with the kick. I did a ton to the kick because here's where I'm going to get into the drums. Having certain things work for the drums, just for the style, need to happen. So with the kick, I started with a little bit of a reverb. You don't need to have that. It just gives it a little bit of a vibe. But I boosted the low end a lot on the vibe. I took this equalizer, put the low end pretty high because it didn't have as much sub and as much woof and punch to the bottom. Might have added a little bit too much, but I'll leave it. Added a compressor. Notice the compressor. You could copy the settings, but the thing to pay attention to that I also went over in the 10 tips video is a small attack time, and that makes it kind of sit back further in the mix. You get a little bit of the transient. It feels a little bit close, but not as close as the piano. The piano feels really close, and the kick kind of feels far back. That's about 24 seconds on the attack time. That's the one to pay attention to. And making sure that when you're doing it, you get that gray bar to come up. Then you're all straight. You're actually using the compressor once that gray bar comes in. And then the third one was equalizing the low end kind of right there around. I wanted this to feel like a heartbeat and to just go whoosh in you. And I'll show you with and without it. So with, without. It's a little too aggressive. So with just kind of tames it and makes it really soft. So that's what I did. I'm pretty sure I listened to that with the track and everything like that too. This is what I did to this kick that you're going to download in the description to make it sound how it does in the track. I just wanted to show it for that. You really just want a soft punch for your kick. And the snare is something that really needs attention in lo-fi because you need to cut the bright end, high end out of the snare. I'll show you what that looks like in here. You just take an EQ and the highest bands on the EQ, these ones right here, you just absolutely smash down. You never want some high end bright information on your snare. It doesn't sound lo-fi. It just doesn't feel like the track. Nobody really does that to their snare. So this is what I did to the main one to make it just sound kind of, I'll show you without it. With it's a little bit dead. It's in the back. It sounds good like that. And also, again, a compressor. 0 attack time. Absolutely low attack time because I wanted that back in the mix. I didn't want you to right up with the snare. I just wanted the vibe. I wanted to have the frequencies there, but it not to be in your face. So I had a low attack time on the compressor, and I made sure that that gain reduction, that GR, cut down pretty well. Once again, we don't have a brightness with the snare, but we do with the rest of the instruments. What's sparkly, what's up top, is the rest of these. So I'll just move the bass down below that, and I'll let you hear all the hi-hats and the little click sounds that I have. Those, I'm pretty sure I just mixed straight how I have them in the sample pack. I added, yeah, I guess a little bit of reverbs and stuff, but that's all like specialty stuff. You could have them totally dry. Cutting out the low end really helps with them if you want something really high and tinny, so cutting the low end like that to make sure the frequencies don't get in the way of the kick drum and the bass drum. So you don't want the low end in the hi-hats and stuff. So I took that out for this stuff. It looks like I cut the highs for this one. That's just to add a bit of a different character to this. So again, these things are all just like I'm experimenting, and it's for your track. Like these aren't essential in making the lo-fi sound, but this is what I did for that track. So all of the drums together sound like this. Sounds pretty good. And one more tip for the patterns of all here. Okay, all of the patterns here have something that I'm going to go over, and I don't see anybody talking about. I've never seen this explained to me. I was listening to A Tribe Called Quest. I had never listened to them before. It was like 2 years ago. And I noticed that the kick drum pattern was super just grooving. Like there was something about the kick drum pattern just made it feel right. And what it is, it's weird to put a number to it, kind of like this. But what you do is you go into your kick, right? I'm going to just play the kick right now. and it's 3/16 notes before the hit. I just always pay attention to the number 3. I don't care if it's 16th, whatever. 3 lines before. Start the kick 3 lines before, and that always makes something that grooves and has this this vibe and this groove to it, man. Like right here, instead of like doom doom, it goes da doom, and it makes it just groove more. I do that with every song that I have right now, especially like old school drums or something like that. So if we could see right here, it's really, really close. There's the downbeat, and then 1, 2, 3 before. Have that da-doom. If that doesn't sound good, if you see it and it's not 3 before, that means you're probably in a smaller grid and you did like these 3 before or something. Then all you got to do is, I'll undo that, is zoom out a bit, and then you get a different set of 3 because it's just how much you've zoomed in. So experiment that. If it doesn't sound good, it doesn't sound good. But that's a good starting place for this stuff. I never see people talking about that, and I really, nowhere I've seen that. But that always makes something that you're writing in sound really human and grooving. So that's all the drums basically. And then the last part is, I'm just going to go over the major things that make it just vibe really hard. And it's, for one, I got the bass in here, which I'll show really quick. The bass just sounds like this. Can hardly even hear it. It's super low because a lot of lo-fi stuff just has the low end come from those pianos that I had earlier. But in the beginning, this intro, the karaoke plugin, that thing really makes a difference in Soundtrap. Again, I go over that thing in my 10 tips. But the drums, when they come in, are stereo. They're panned a lot of the ways. They're in the field. They feel wide and big. And again, the piano feels wide and big. They wouldn't have felt wide and big unless I had something narrow to contrast them. There's some quote that I'll put up right here that it's, you can't appreciate sound unless you appreciate silence. This is the same way. You can't appreciate width unless you appreciate narrowness. So to make narrowness, I had that in the intro because I just wanted something. I'll take the loop off and I'll show you the drums. This is what the drums sound like. Let's bring up the effects in the intro. And you can see that karaoke instrument at the end, which makes everything super narrow. I'll show you what everything sounds like without the karaoke. If you're in headphones, you really get the sense that it's like this space behind it, and then I'll click it on, just watch me pressing on and off. You'll see what happens to the sound if you're in headphones. So check this out. That did something a little bit different. I'll bring it back. So off. On. Made everything sound like small and like in your face. You'll notice this a ton when you mess around with it. It's maybe hard to hear just in my beat, but when you hear everything, you're like, oh my god, the energy died. And it's because wide and exciting things sound good, but having a boring kind of squashed and its mono sound makes everything else sound that much more exciting, and the other things can't sound exciting unless this is in mono like that. So have that, and I did it to the piano up here. I'm pretty sure I have karaoke on that. I have to. Yep, for sure. Just making sure that that's cut like that. So the intro sounds like this. All narrow, and then wide. So everything is just all over the place now. The last thing that totally makes the lo-fi, I should have had this as a main tip, is this little fuzz sound that's playing the entire time, basically. Super hard to hear right now. It's hardly even getting picked up on my microphone, but you're going to hear that in your mix. You could even crank the thing up as much as you want, because like we were trying to do the warping to make it sound old, now we're trying to do the fuzz that came along with that as well. Every lo-fi sound has noise put into it. Like everything has that little scratchy electrical noise type of feel. Like I said, all those plugins have a noise thing. So I have it going the entire time. and I cut out 1 second right before the main one, and I'll let you listen to the intro. I just cut everything like one little bar before, and then go, and then everything comes in. So one more time, sounds like this. And that's pretty much it. The variation comes back to this little part right here. Comes back to the intro section halfway through just to add something, and then the second instrument that comes in halfway through is this bell. Sounds like this. Just thought it sounded cool, made some interest. It's doubling the melody that the piano was doing, so it's just taking the notes that were in the pianos and putting them in. Once again, these are all free. They're nothing from music makers or whatever it is that Soundtrap makes you pay for. This is all free stuff, and I just thought it added a little bit of texture. Once again, I'll play the mixed and exported beat for you guys, and I just listen to this one because they're having all these together sounds a little bit different. So listen to this part really, really quick, and then I'll come back and give one last comment about all this stuff. Here's how it sounds. If I missed anything down below, please leave a comment because I want to help you. If there's a question, I don't want you being confused, and I'm a small channel, so I'm really good at replying to those because there's like nobody down there right now. So thank you guys for just watching too. Once again, I'll leave all the links for everything down in the description below, and a like and a subscribe just makes my channel, make me able to do these, because I'm not gonna be able to do these if I need the money to mix. And like, I'm not gonna have time for YouTube, so I gotta grow my channel and make sure I'm doing my thing, and a like and a sub helps me so much for that down below, you guys. So I appreciate you for just watching though, and I hope this was helpful, and I will catch you guys in the next one.